Lord, you cannot say no.
Amen.
It's part of my personal constitution and principles that if I'm invited to church, I cannot say no. So thank you very much, Pastor Gurupira, for the invitation.
Amen.
I also want to extend my greetings to all the members of this church, Kingdom Soul Harvesters. I like the name of the church. The name of the church says Soul Harvesters. And I like the name of that church.
Amen.
And I also want to appreciate and indicate to you that we have been working with Kingdom Soul Harvesters for a very long time as a school where I am working. And I do really appreciate your church. I appreciate it. There are a number of churches that have done some crusades, worshiping and so forth at the school where I'm working. But some of those churches have done little to us. But I think I must also give a testimony that at some point in time, Kingdom Soul Harvesters, they came to do a cleanup campaign at our school. So we really appreciate that one, to say we do have Pastor Gurupira not only doing the work of God, but also extending his work to the community, to the schools, cleaning the schools, and so forth. So I'm very, really happy to be part of this gathering. I'm not a visitor myself to this church. I'm part of the family. I see there are some of my learners here, right? I have Joelyn. I just saw Joelyn here. I taught Joelyn geography. She was not just my learner, but she was my daughter, and she's still my daughter. So when I come to this church, I don't feel lost. I'm not lost. I'm part of the family. I'm part of the family as far as Pastor Gurupira is concerned. I'm part of the family as far as Joelyn and other part of the congregants in this church are also concerned. I also enjoyed the service, the ceremony that I've just listened to just now from Genesis 22. The theme of sacrificial offering, it touched my heart.
Amen.
To say, what do we offer? Sacrificial offering. You must offer that which to you. Once you have offered it, you are left with nothing. Thank you for that word. It touched my heart to say, when you offer and you still have something, you have not offered. But when you offer and you are left with literally nothing, that is an offering. Thank you for that service. I come from education. I'm an educationist, having taught in Zimbabwe for something like 12 years. I've taught here in South Africa for close to 14 years. So I call myself an educationist. So I'm also going to talk about education, but I would also do we relate education to Christianity. In as far as my discussion on education is concerned, I'm going to talk about education, especially in as far as it relates to undocumented children. When I'm talking of what are called undocumented children in education, they are children of South Africans who don't have birth certificates. They are children of non-South Africans who don't have passports or study permits. So in the school system, we have those two categories of students or learners. The documented learner, the undocumented learner. How do we deal with the undocumented learners? How do we deal with South African children born by South African parents and they don't have a birth certificate? How do we deal with a child born to non-South Africans and the child does not have a passport or a study permit? In our education, we work with the law. We work with the law. We use what is called educational law. But the supreme law that we use in education, it is derived from the South African Constitution. So if we go to the South African Constitution, Section 29, Section 29 of the South African Constitution, it says that every child is a basic right to education. That one is key. That one is very important. We need to understand it. Every child is a basic right, and that right is undeniable. You can't deny a child access to education because it is enshrined in the Constitution of South Africa. That's what it says. I will also go a little bit deeper to look at educational law. We also work with what is called the South African Schools Act. The South African Schools Act, Section 84, 1996. What does it say about the two categories of learners that I was talking about? The documented learner is fine. We don't get worried about the documented learner. Our worry as educationists is the undocumented child. How do we work? How do we assist the undocumented child? The undocumented child, if I have to repeat, I said, is this child who, due to whatever family challenges, does not have a birth certificate. Is this other child an immigrant child who, due to family challenges, the blame is not on the child if a child does not have a birth certificate. The blame is not on the child if a child does not have a passport. The blame is not on the child if the child does not have a study permit. The child must go to school. That is what is very important. So, if we go to the South African Schools Act that I was about to talk about, it says, every child between the age of 7 up to the age of 15, all those children, they are supposed to go to school. Let me talk about you parents. Parents, if you don't allow your child to go to school between the age of 7 to the age of 15, you are committing a criminal offense. Wow. Pastor Gurupira, I need to indicate that one to the congregants that if you don't send a child to school and the child is between the age of 7 up to the age of 15 or up to grade 9, if we forget about age, let's talk of level, up to grade 9, if you are not sending your child either as a guardian or as a parent, we must report you to the police. Wow. After reporting to the police, I think the police must take you to court, and I think the judges, the National Prosecuting Authority, must try you, and I think you must get your judgment for something like 6 months. Then you can go and serve your 6 months in prison for not sending the child to school. That's what the South African Schools Act says. So in as far as the undocumented child is concerned, we are saying, or we say in education, take your child to the nearest school. It can be a public school, it can be an independent school. Go to the principal, tell the principal, I have a challenge. The child does not have a birth certificate, the child does not have a passport, the child does not have a study permit, but I want the child to enroll in school. Wow. It ends there. Once you have stated what you want to the principal, then the principal should be in a position to admit that particular child. Wow. Yes, I know in terms of our admission policies and so forth, we always tell our parents, and I'm also telling you, the congregants, that it is important to respect and to follow the law. That's right. To respect and to follow the law. Once a child is there, we must go to the Department of Home Affairs. We get a birth certificate. Once a child is there and we want to take the child to another country, we must get a passport. Right. Once we also want a child to attend school in another country, we must apply for a study permit so that the child can also be in school with proper papers. However, whatever the law says, the basic right to education is enshrined in the Constitution of South Africa. It comes first, and it has to be respected. That one we cannot challenge it. Birth certificate, passport, study permit or no study permit, the child must be in school. I don't know the media, if you can go to Proverbs 22. I also just want us to look at Proverbs 22, verse 6. I want us to read what it says, because this is very important for us to observe the Constitution of South Africa. Every child has a basic right to education. And the South African Schools Act, what does it say? It says, those who are working in education, as principals, I'm a school principal, we must admit a child, irrespective of the challenges of the birth certificate, the passports, and the study permits, so that we can be able to allow the child in school. And once the child is in school, we can then assist you. We give you a letter, you go to the Department of Home Affairs. At times we are very fortunate. In our case, where I'm working, the Department of Home Affairs, they come to school. They come to school to assist the undocumented children so that they can get birth certificates and so forth. If it is a non-South African learner, we give the child a letter to say, go and apply for a study permit, then you can be able to get it. If we go to Proverbs 22, verse 6, it says that we should be able to give instruction to the child at the right age. At the right age, between the age of 7 up to the age of 15, according to the South African Schools Act. This is also being reflected if we go to the Bible, if we go to Proverbs 22, verse 6. Why we are saying this? You cannot train an old dog in new tricks. You can't. You cannot train an old dog in new tricks. A child between the age of 7 up to 15 must be in school. English also says, old habits die hard.
Yeah.
Old habits die hard. Imagine your child at the age of 7, at the age of 8, 10, 12, 15, is not going to school, wakes up early in the morning, straight goes into the street. What is the child going to do in the street? That's why we are saying, old habits, they die hard. The child gets into the street, is already getting into Nyaupe. Once the child is into Nyaupe, what's next? It's disaster. Thank you very much, Pastor Gurupira. I thought I was going to do much of